Good evening, and welcome to the Orange County School Board's regularly scheduled meeting for Tuesday, January 22nd, 2019. Would you please stand and join us in a moment of silence? Thank you. Vice Chair, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, we welcome you all tonight. We have some very exciting announcement in terms of some outstanding employees. Before we begin, though, let me first just recognize that we have just come off of the annual reflection and renewal period that we go through once a year to remember the life and the legacy of Martin Luther King. I hope that you all had an opportunity to spend the weekend reflecting on the changes that we have made as a society for the better, and reflecting on the changes that we need to make as society to live the dream that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. dreamed for all of us. With that, I want to announce some outstanding employees joining us for special recognitions. First, we're so excited to celebrate the Florida Council for the Social Studies Teacher of the Year. Orange County Public Schools has 2 state honorees this year. The awards honor outstanding elementary, middle, and high school teachers from each of Florida's school districts. Nominees demonstrate excellence in the ability to develop and use instructional materials creatively, I can say this, and effectively while incorporating innovative instructional strategies. In addition, these nominees continuously show evidence of professional involvement in activities. The OCPS, Social Studies Teachers of the Year, attended the state's annual conference where they were honored with a plaque. The nominees from Orange County Public Schools were Stephanie McDougall from Lake Nona Middle School and William Bolt from Jones High School. Can both of you stand so that we can recognize you? Thank you. I'm sure the board would like an opportunity to shake your hand. So if you can come forward to the podium for just a minute. Thank you. Great job. I love your signs. Thank you. Your signs are great too. I definitely want to be in that class. Also, tonight we would like to honor 6 employees who are scholarship recipients this year. These employees have been chosen to receive the Melody Burton Scholarship for Future Teachers. The scholarship commemorates the life and the education of Melody Burton. Melody was a teacher in OCPS who lost her battle with cancer in 1993. The scholarship is administered by Human Resources and was funded by a grant through the Foundation for Orange County Public Schools. The purpose of the scholarship is to increase the number of high-quality teachers in our district. The scholarship provides financial assistance for paraprofessionals interested in teaching in critical areas identified by our school district. So without further delay, it is my pleasure to introduce and to recognize the scholarship awardees. And let me first mention that the first person we're going to recognize, Ms. Rosalind Egan from Clay Springs Elementary School, where she is currently an ESE professional, was not able to join us this evening. But Shantae Bennett, I believe, Shantae, are you here? Stand if you could so we can recognize you, Shantae. Shantae is from Positive Pathways, where she is a program assistant. Thank you for the wonderful work you do for our children at Positive Pathways, putting them on the right track. We love what you're doing. Thank you. And next, I want to recognize Ishmael Granson, a paraprofessional at Wekiva High School. Where's Ishmael? Stand up, Ishmael. Thank you. Next, Kyra Sweet. Kyra is an ESC. Where's Kyra? Kyra is an ESC program assistant at Dr. Phillips Elementary School. Next, we have Andrette Lampkin. Where's Andrette? Andrette is with Laureate Park Elementary, Extended Day Coordinator. And then we have Blythe Arscott, program assistant at Lake Nona High School. Is Blythe here? Got quiet. Okay. We must have missed Blythe. We want to congratulate all of you. We look forward to seeing where your careers take you, and we hope that that's always here at Orange County Public Schools. Thank you, and God bless you for the wonderful work that you do. And I know that my board members and I would love to have an opportunity to personally congratulate you. Can you come up for just a minute? Okay. And do we have any of the principals or administrators from their schools here? If you all can stand so we can thank you for the support that you've given to this team. Yes, it's wonderful that you all are here. We thank you for all that you're doing for Orange County and for our children. And with that, you're welcome to stay around and enjoy the rest of the evening with us. You're also welcome to go home and enjoy the evening with your family, whichever you would prefer. Next, we want to also introduce our newly appointed administrators. Dr. Jenkins, do you have any newly appointed administrators to introduce at this time?
Just a couple, Madam Chair, members of the board. First, we have Leanne Fink, from acting assistant principal at Boone High School to assistant principal at Boone High School.
Leanne, where are you? Ms. Fink, congratulations and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, school board members, Superintendent Jenkins, and staff for this opportunity to serve at Boone High School. I would like to thank my professional mentors, Dr. John McHale and Ms. Angela Clayton, both of whom are with me tonight. And I'd also like to thank my family for their support, one of whom is with me today, my daughter Morgan, and as a surprise, my two brothers, Mark and Robert, who are also OCPS employees, surprising me in the back. And finally, I would like to thank the wonderful Boone High School team, the staff, and especially Mr. Dusty Johns, my new principal, for the ability to come and serve at Boone High School. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, I hope your daughter plans to follow in your footsteps.
Next, we have Jay Gangswich, who was assistant principal at Millennia Gardens Elementary School. He will be the new principal at Sunset Park Elementary.
Thank you, Madam Chair Jacobs, school board members, Superintendent Jenkins, and staff for the opportunity to serve at Sunset Park. I'd like to recognize my professional mentors, and they are sitting here. Miss Ann Lina, I think everybody knows Miss Ann Lina, for everything you've done. Thank you so much. And then my APs that I worked with at Millennia Gardens, Pena, and Miss Weiss and Miss Carolero, 100%, they are mentors to me, even though definitely older than you guys, but mentors every day, without a doubt. Miss Gordon, thank you so much for showing up tonight. It's amazing. Patty Gordon. My family, my two oldest had to work tonight, and I said, no. You are working. So then my third oldest had her honor society tonight, so I brought the two youngest. So
wow.
There, I've got Wonder Woman, and then I've got Cinderella. So they are here as well tonight. And then finally, I want to thank a couple people who came out from Sunset Park tonight. Awesome. Really excited about my AP. I've seen him before in our meetings. He's wonderful. He's amazing. Can't wait to work with him. And just thank guys, and looking forward to it. Thank you guys for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Then lastly, we have Meredith Leptakis, who is principal at Palmetto. She will be the new EAD for the School Transformation Office.
Thank you, school board members, Superintendent Jenkins, and staff for this opportunity to serve in the School Transformation Office. I'd like to recognize some professional mentors and their support along this journey: Dr. Border, Dr. Vasquez, Dr. Schuler, Dr. Pope, who isn't here, Dr. Cupid McCoy, Dr. Kent, Dr. Larson, Ms. Hunt, and Mr. Adamson for all of your support, and everyone else along the way. I'd like to thank my family members that could not be here because my husband, Andrew Leftakis, is leading Rising 6th grade night at the mighty Maitland Middle School. And my mother and father-in-law who stayed home but are watching, and are watching our 6-year-old Holden and our 10-week-old Ellie. I know, right? I'd like to recognize my Palmetto family, those that are watching and those that are here with me. Thank you for being a second home and for teaching me more than I could have ever really thought I was going to learn there, and everything else in the world, too. Once a Panther, always a Panther, so don't forget that. Some of my friends, Miss Latricia Pinder, the principal of Wheatley, Tiffany Smith, principal of Dr. Phillips Elementary School, Miss Lionel, just for being great colleagues. And finally, thank you to the School Transformation Office team members, Dr. Brown-Candon and Dr. Wyndham, who's come out to welcome me this evening. I'm proud to work alongside you for the success of all of our students. So thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you, Dr. Jenkins. And I'm going to extend the same request that each of you come up so the board can congratulate you. And then the same opportunity. You can spend the rest of the evening enjoying our company, or you can spend it in the comfort of your family and enjoying theirs, whichever you choose. If you all could come, all three of you could come forward. Thank you. She said her baby's even cuter when she sleeps. I got news for you. They're all cuter when they sleep. and you know what? When they become teenagers, they're even really cuter when they sleep. So, all right. Thank you. Now moving on to the business portion of our meeting. Dr. Jenkins, do we have any items, any changes to the consent agenda?
We do, Madam Chair, members of the board. Item 603, student move to non-consent. Expulsion of student JB at Cypress Creek High School in conjunction with the waivers of out-of-school student expulsions and district behavior contracts. Secondly, item 1501, removed to be brought back later for consideration at the General Counsel's request. And thirdly, item 801 is moved to non-consent per request from member Castor Dentel.
Okay, and just for clarification for the public, item 1501 is moved to a later date, to a future meeting. All right. The chair finds cause to amend the agenda. Is there a motion to amend the agenda?
Second.
Motion by member Gould. Is there a second? Thank you. Second by member Gallo. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Are there any questions about the consent agenda? All right. Are there any members of the public, before we take up the consent agenda, are there any members of the public? Actually, I know there are members of the public. I think we have 2 members of the public that have filled out speaker cards to address the board regarding matters that are on the agenda. First, we have Rob Gatton. Mr. Gatton, I hope I said your name correctly. If you can come forward, you have 3 minutes, sir, to address the board.
Well, thank you very much for your time this evening. I'm here to speak about the copier contract that's about to be awarded. I work for your current vendor, Dex Imaging, and I'm primarily here just to ask for an extension of the research of the proposals that were submitted. I don't think you know all the facts. I had a lot to present until about an hour and a half ago when your chief operating officer and counsel called me to try and explain all the facts that I still disagree with. I didn't know I needed counsel here today, or I would have brought it. We were told we were eliminated from the bid because we signed off on a contract called Vizient. I don't know if the word piggyback versus being allowed to pay or buy off of it are two different things, but the Orange County Public School on December 12, 2016 signed up to participate on this contract. I have a ID number, which I shared with your chief operating officer, that you are a member. And we were told that's why we were eliminated. So I would think that would give us the ability to at least be reconsidered. I was also told that we were more expensive. And by mistake, an Orange County School Board member sent us an email that at the bottom of it had the price of a large portion of the contract of a competitor. We were not we were not more expensive. It's a lot of money, $10 to $12 million over the next 3 years. And I know as a husband of a public school teacher how much printing I do at home because she's allowed 2 copies a day for each student. And we've been your vendor for 13 plus years and believe we've done a wonderful job. At this point, we're pretty confident we don't have a chance anymore to win. There's been a change in power in your decision making that has wanted to go a different direction, but still right is right. And to be eliminated for something that your own group did not know you had the ability to purchase off of, in my opinion, is significantly wrong and a miscite. And I just asked for an extension. We were just looking for a fair and equitable, non-biased decision. And so I appreciate your time and hope you will at least extend the bid and not make a decision this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, just can we
Please.
get, before he gets off, just name and address for the record?
Yes, sir. Your name and address for the record, please. If you can come up to the microphone.
It's Robert Gatton, and I live at 807 Leopard Trail, which is in Winter Springs, Florida, 32708. I'm a Seminole County resident. My company is Orange County.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Rodriguez, so this is an item that we are voting on today.
Madam Chair, yes, this is one of the items under your bid matrix.
Next speaker that we have is Mary Bridges, Senior Director of Student Services. Ms. Bridges, welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair, school board members, Superintendent Jenkins, and staff for allowing me to speak on behalf of National School Counselor Week. National School Counseling Week will be celebrated from February 4th through 8th, 2019, to focus public attention on the unique contribution of school counselors within U.S. school systems. This year's theme is School Counselors Providing Lessons for Life. This week will highlight the tremendous impact school counselors can have in helping students achieve school success and plan for a career. In today's atmosphere, we know that in order for students to achieve academic success, they need to be socially, emotionally, and mentally healthy and feel safe at school. The district furthered its commitment to these efforts 3 years ago by allocating 1 additional counselor for each high school to reduce the student-to-counselor ratio, and also requiring all high schools to hire a college and career specialist to assist with post-secondary planning. The school counselor is oftentimes the first person to identify that a student may need additional resources, either academically or social-emotionally. They have the expertise to identify student concerns, as well as know how to respond to get the student the help they need. School counselors are the jack of all trades, being able to schedule students and ensure they are successful to graduate, act as a college and career counselor, financial aid advisor, and community service liaison, all while providing the social emotional support students need. They always deliver these services in a professional and caring manner. We do have a couple counselors here this evening, and we also have quite a few who asked me how to get this online today. Our Skyward training started today, so many counselors were up in the north with Skyward training, but I do want to recognize 2 counselors that we do have here. So thank you. And thank you all for recognizing National Counselor Week.
Okay, Mr. Rodriguez, are there any other speakers coming before?
Madam Vice Chair, there's no other speakers, no other speaker cards at this time.
Well, let me recognize Member Gould before we take up the consent agenda.
I just wanted to highlight the importance of our counselors, and it takes an entire team to move forward the successes that we have seen over the last several years. But in a time where stress has really reached into our schools in maximum ways, the counselors have been key, not only to the kind of mental health and cultural well-being, but then the academic support and success. So I want to say thank you, and it's wonderful to have such great resources for our students and our families right at the school, and hopefully we can continue to grow those kinds of services and programs. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Colbert.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I too want to acknowledge the importance of what you all do, and thank you for what you do every day, not only for our students, because I know I wouldn't have gotten my first 2 through school without the help of some great guidance counselors, but also for your entire school community. I know you often guide teachers and other employees at the school. You're the go-to person, and jack of all trades really is the right description. So I just want to acknowledge how much you have on your plate and what a great job you do with that, and how vital you are to everything that we're trying to do here. So thank you to all of you.
Thank you. Member Gordon.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I too would like to add from the previous board our commitment, and you've heard from 2 of the former members, and I know that you've been meeting with the present board members that are sitting here today, and I admonish you to do so as quickly as you can. Thanks to Dr. Jenkins and her wonderful team of listening to this board and seeing the importance of counseling. We've had, 2 of us up here have been school counselors for many years in Orange County and other districts also as well, and have really pushed forward. This board has been very, very supportive of our human services, all human services, and our superintendent has been one that has seen to it to adjust that budget to be able to make it fit. So I too want to say to you to continue to do what you're doing, not only for the children, but working with the employees in the schools and other staff members also, because I know sometimes you don't always have to counsel just the children, but every now and then you have to counsel the administrator, okay, and the teachers as well, and even the lunchroom staff, okay, so you're like a go-between. But we thank you for this and your commitment, and we thank this board for their continued service to see how important that you are within the school system, within the state, and within the United States and the world. We could not make it without you, okay? Thank you, Dr. Jenkins, and your wonderful staff for seeing to it that we have these services. Also, I want to add another thing, the programs. As we go through the schools and we see what you're doing here in this county as compared to what other counties are doing, we are way ahead of it. When we ask you to go get a program, you immediately go get it. And some kind of way you put that program to use, and even working with the colleges and the university, that's a wonderful extension. They love coming in and working with you. We were with Valencia, the other day, and they highlighted Orange. And we were in another county, and they highlighted the great work that you're doing. So your work is being noticed, and we are very pleased because we know that our children are getting the help that they need. Thank you so very much again, Dr. Jenkins, and your wonderful staff, and to everything that you all are doing for us.
Thank you, Member Gordon. Member Gallo.
I just want to thank you as well. One of my best friends is a guidance counselor, and when I used to substitute teach, I saw firsthand on the impact that she had on children, how much they loved her and how invaluable she was. And I know that you two are as well. So I just want to say thank you, and thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you. Dr. Jenkins.
Am I the end?
You are the end.
Because I was going to make two comments, Madam Chair, on the speakers. First of all, certainly want to add my commendations, my thanks to counselors. We know how hard you work and what a difference you make in our children's lives. So both for those who are here in the audience and for so many more that do the work every day for our children, thank you. And although there's a special week for recognition, we believe you're to be commended throughout the year for the tremendous work that you do. Secondly, Madam Chair, if I may, on the other item, the previous item that was mentioned by the public speaker, I am going to, out of the abundance of caution, actually set that aside for tonight. But I have to tell you a couple of things just so no one is misinformed. Piggybacking is a requirement. We have to look at state contracts in order to save taxpayer dollars, and we believe that's what we've done. But out of the abundance of caution, I will have staff relook and give you a full report. But I'm going to ask Mr. Pacheco, who's over our procurement, our Chief Operations Officer, to come to the podium to review with you some information that we know immediately regarding this particular issue. And I always, as our General Counsel has done, like to caution board members around solicitations directly to you from vendors. So while we want to be careful, I don't want anyone to think it's open season now on new school board members to come after when they're not happy with the selection. Piggyback is an option we're required to look at in order to save taxpayer dollars. In fact, I believe some years ago when this particular company received their contract, I believe it was through Piggyback as well. Mr. Pacheco.
Thank you. Thank you, Superintendent Jenkins. Madam Chair, board members, I would like to provide you a little bit of background as far as where we stand, what are we trying to present to you this evening. So as the superintendent stated, the district piggybacked the state contract back in 2016 to award it to Dex Imaging for a copy contract. That contract expires this year on August 3rd, 2019. So with that in mind, what the team proceeded to do is to look at possible contracts that we can have in place in order to replace our existing contract. So one of the actions that they took was to issue an RFI. What that is a request for information. And because in order to open it up to any vendor out there, in order to provide any contract that was piggybackable. So some of the requirements not requirements, but some of the asks that we included on the RFI was that the firms or the companies needed to submit information on any governmental contracts that they might have out there. And that made some minimum requirements that it was not going to expire less than 2 years, that it provided some of the pricing requirements that we were going to be using in order to provide their services for the district. So through that process, and that was advertised openly to all vendors on October 25th of last year. They followed the process of advertising it to the same process that we do for our RFPs or ITBs. So it was open to anybody that wanted to know that what we were doing. On the document itself, it did state that it was an active governmental contract that permits piggybacking and best meet the needs and requirements for OCPS. So it was pretty clear what we were looking to do based on that information. So 11 firms submitted a proposal for it. One of them being the firm that spoke to you previously. As I stated before, one of the requirements was that they needed to be a piggybackable contract. So that it has to meet some minimum requirements based on state legislature, based on law. And what the firm submitted in this case was a contract, two contracts, one from the healthcare industries and another one, I believe, from the food service industry, both that they appear to be from the private sector. I know that they have presented some additional information to that. I don't know if they can confirm that is a governmental contract. That would definitely take into consideration if they can confirm that. So again, with one firm not submitting proposals that we were able to evaluate, we proceeded with all the other 10 firms. There were a group of 4 team members from OCPS that evaluated the 10 remaining contracts to look which one would be the best one for us to utilize in order to provide the services needed by the district. At the end, the committee opted to award this contract to 2 firms. Those are the ones submitted or piggyback for 2 contracts, and those are the ones submitted on the bid matrix today. The 2 contracts were initiated by governmental agencies and do meet all the requirements of being able to be piggybackable. So that's what we have presented to you tonight. That's how we got to that period of time. The one thing that I probably need to add is that during that request for information period, we had what we call an information session or pre-submittal session, if you want to call it that way. And all firms were able to show up that day, ask questions about anything that they needed to include on their proposals, and I believe the firm in question was present during that day. So that's how we got into the recommendation that you have included in front of you today. The one thing that I wanted to add is that when evaluating our piggybacking, what we do is that we analyze pricing, because of course that is a big determinant. Is it better for us to piggyback or try to do our own contract? So if we take the pricing that we currently have with a contract that will be expiring in August, compared to the pricing that the new contracts offer, we see a considerable savings. Again, from the contract that our current vendor has with us right now, compared to the contract that they presented the vendors during the submittal process, with one company, we get a savings around $420,000 a year. So that is substantial, and for the other company, we'll get about savings of $300,000 a year. So even from the current contract that we have, the ones that we evaluated, we had much better pricing than the current one that we have right now.
Thank you, Mr. Pacheco. 2 things I would add, just for clear understanding. And we will make sure that every board member's questions are answered. I think it's important to note switching to, for example, one of the options is a per copy option versus leasing a machine. I had this conversation with another board member. If you lease a machine and you're not making that many copies, you are wasting dollars. And so we actually have 2 options. One is a per copy, and the other is an actual lease if there is a high volume. And so this building, for example, will do the per copy version most likely, because you should not pay for several machines that may be sitting dormant under a lease. And for the record, as all of our high schools and our middle schools are in one-to-one digital format, using student-assigned laptops that they take home back and forth to school with them, the need for running several copiers. Some of us even remember the old duplicator. Ms. Gordon, you remember the purple monster? There is no need for running volumes and volumes of paper when students have a digital device and digital imaging that they can use as well. Nonetheless, as I mentioned, we will certainly set this aside and get you thorough information. What was spoken of tonight does not, one in particular statement or claim does not match what we believe. We'll have it reviewed for you and bring it back next meeting. Again, and I want to ask that any other vendors that have been involved in this not feel like it is their opportunity now to try to speak to and convince board members. That is not the process that we will use. I would certainly encourage you not to let vendors approach you asking for the business. With that being said, Madam Chair, we will withdraw item 8 and 9 on your bid matrix. If you refresh your computer, even if it doesn't come up, our general counsel says my verbal indication that we are withholding item 8 and item 9 on the bid matrix until next we meet. That is sufficient, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Jenkins. One question. Who has the contract right now? Dex. That's what I thought. Okay. Dr. Jenkins, I'm not going to ask any further questions. I'll ask them separately, but I understand your concern about giving the wrong impression to our vendors, and this is not the time for a debate over this, but I also very much appreciate when somebody puts something into the record of the potential for millions of dollars of savings. I respect and appreciate the need to look at that and be very sure that we're making the right decision. So I think that's it's a very tricky balance, but I appreciate the delay and the review. With that, Member Gould, you're recognized.
There was just one other thing that I wanted to have clarified and on the record because it was brought up. How often, when we go through these review cycles, especially with things that are part of our operation, like copy machines, how often do we re-review those and put those requests for proposals out?
Normally, we try to have a contract for a period of minimum of 5 years to really permit for the vendors to become accustomed to us, to really take advantage of the pricing. But usually what we do is that we do provide option for renewal. So in the case that the needs of the district do change, we're able to go and pursue some other avenues for contracting. But for this type, right now, we're looking for a period of 5 years.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. With that, I think we are on the consent agenda. If there aren't any further questions or comments from board members, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended? Do we need to approve the amended agenda before we vote on it? Thank you. So, is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended by the superintendent? Motion by Member Colbert, second by Member Gould. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And now we are on the agenda as amended. Is there a motion to approve?
Move the approval.
Motion by Vice Chair Gordon. Is there a second? Second by Member Byrd. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. I look forward to spending some time working through the minutes on this one. Thank you. That means I will assist Ms. McGill. All right, next item on the agenda then would be a non-consent item, and I will turn the meeting over to Dr. Jenkins.
Thank you. It is. Did we move 801? Item 801, Dr. Bernier.
It says 802, but it's 801.
Yeah, we have two non-consent now.
Dr. Jenkins, Madam Chair, school board members. Item 8.01 is a request from the Central Florida Leadership Academy, which has been conducting business as a charter school since 2010. Beginning back on 9/13/2011, the first request was made before a board for directory information, which does not provide any identification other than name and address. That original vote was on the non-consent, and it was passed 7-1. Since that time, we've had multiple items, and beginning on 6/26/12, the history of these requests moved to the consent agenda. CFLA, the Central Florida Leadership Academy, has requested 6 separate times, including this current request. They are looking for information regarding zip codes surrounding their school in order to mail those students directly and ask them if they are interested in an opportunity to join their educational program at CFLA. That's the background behind the resolution.
All right, any questions by board members? Member Castor Dentel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I asked for this item to be placed on the non-consent agenda because I think it's important that we have a discussion among the board members regarding directory information. And as a board and as a district, I think we must be very careful about giving out personal student information. We have an obligation to the students and the families to maintain and protect their personal information, and I am reluctant to allow a request for directory information, because I believe the term directory information can be very misleading for parents. Many think that directory information will simply be used as a part of a school directory or in a yearbook. But other people do ask for that directory information. It could be news media, it could be political officers, outside entities from the district, mail houses used in recruitment, companies selling and marketing. And the directory information that is often included isn't merely just the student's name and address, but it can also be the student's home address, their cell number, their email, a parent's name, the parent's address, the parent's home and cell phone and email. It can also include a student's place and date of birth, which can be problematic. For students who are in athletics, it can include their height and weight. I know I would not want my weight given out for someone who asks. It includes their grade level. It could be the schools that they have attended. For students who attend alternative settings, that might be information they also don't want out. And the participation in school activities or clubs and sports. And recently I have heard from parents asking about how someone got their child's information. And it comes from the confusion in what is and how can they, what directory information is and how can they opt out. And I don't believe parents are giving true informed consent when these forms go out in the beginning of the year. And that's something that we can also work on later, but for the item before us today, I think has less to do with who is requesting it. And for me, more to do with my belief that information of our students is not ours to share. So, Madam Chair, I move to deny this request for students' personal data in the form of directory information.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion by Member Castor Dentel. We have a second by Member Lopez. And next up is Member Gallo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a question for the Dr. Bernier.
Yes, ma'am.
Can they access this information through the Department of Education?
There are other ways to get information in the zip codes that they are requesting. The DOE would not be a source of this information specifically. I'm not an expert on what we upload to the Department of Ed, but I believe the Department of Ed would not release this information because they would refer the person back to the local LEA, which is us. I'd have to defer to one of our attorneys to be 100% sure of that answer, though, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. I too share the concerns that Member Castor Dentel expressed earlier. I think that as a parent, I got the stacks. I know how many papers that we have to fill at the beginning of the school year, and sometimes this kind of gets lost in that bundle. But I want to be very cautious when we give out data from our children. I think that parents expect us to be cautious. I've heard complaints as well from parents when they don't understand how they got on a certain list, how we're able to give out children's information because it's not subjected to open records requests. Is that correct?
The question, Mr. Rodriguez, is the same information subject to a public records request?
No, it would not. And that's the way FERPA reads, which is the Family Privacy Act, is certain information is disclosed only at the discretion of the board. So some boards, some school districts, because they're a small community, may choose to allow for all the information to be shared because they'll know everyone knows each other and they're trying to share that information. You have the authority and really the privilege is yours to determine whether or not you're going to share that information with others. In some instances, our policy currently reads you only share that information if there's a contractual agreement to provide it, which is why Mr. Bernier comes, because the request has been made by the charter schools of his group. They bring it to the board, and then the board makes a determination as to whether or not you'd like to have it disclosed. If you choose not to, then we just tell the charter schools, not available at this time, not this year. For consistency purposes I will share with you that if whatever decision you take today, it obviously impacts all charter schools for this year, because otherwise it could be held to a different standard that you're judging some charter schools different than others. But a member of the public simply cannot walk up and ask for all student information. They can request employee information unless that information is confidential and exempt under Florida law.
Thank you.
So my concern is do parents understand when they check that box that they opt in or that they agree to give their children the information, that information can be shared with this entity or another entity. And as Member Castor Dentel pointed out, this isn't about the charter school requesting the information, because I believe that parents need to make the best decision for their children. I'm almost positive I gave birth to my child and the district did not, so I do support children making good decisions on their behalf. However, I do have concerns just with the parents understanding that this information is being shared. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Member Gould.
Part of what I wanted to clarify was that the way that I understood the policy was that not everybody has access to this information, that it is about relationship. And I am enjoying this conversation and relooking at, is there maybe a more overt way to identify to parents that they have of what they're signing away when they say that they'll be notified. What I do want to make sure that we don't do, though, is, because I believe we are the best choice in the community, and I am going to talk specifically to the charter school component, but every parent has to make a decision, and I want to make sure it doesn't seem like we're hiding access to the schools. And many of the schools are like UCP and some of the others are very strong partners with us in really delivering the kinds of services needed for those kids. And it's sometimes very frustrating, as it is for parents seeking specialty services, to get access to that. So it's really is a double-headed coin in this case, and a double-edged sword. So I just want to make sure, in our caution and really wanting to have people understand what they're signing away, that we're not making it too difficult for parents who want to explore the best option for their child, when often that option, after they've explored it, is right back in our public school system. So that's just something else to think about before we make a drastic policy change that takes a tool away from a parent who may be looking for options.
Next, Member Colbert.
So Member Gould expressed several of the things that I've been contemplating today. So I'll always come down on the side of privacy of the personal information for our students. But I also will come down on the side of what's best for all of our children. So you gave the perfect example, the UCP school. How do parents navigate a system with all of the choices and be able to find what they might need, something special for their student? This particular charter does a wonderful job. They have a highly specialized program and serve the children that they serve very, very well. So yes, it's not about this charter school. I think they're trying to get the information out to students that we have these specialized services here if that's what you need. So that's what I'm trying to balance, is the privacy versus, as Ms. Gould said, parents having access to the information of everything that might be available and be right for their students. So what I would like to suggest, outside of the motion that we're looking at currently, is that we take a good hard look at this policy, which it seems like hasn't been reviewed since 2011. And I think that we maybe should do a nice deep dive on the policy itself.
Mr. Rodriguez, do we have a policy?
Madam Chair, we have a policy that addresses specifically that the information regarding directory information shall not be shared unless it's done with school board approval, and that it's not to be used for commercial purposes. So it's really to put our administrators and others on notice not to disclose that information inadvertently.
Okay, I misunderstood. I thought you were saying that we have a policy on when we will. So you're just saying we should look at what is a very broad policy right now and come back and put some limitations and some guidance into that policy. Yeah. Member Castor Dentel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to address what some of the other board members have mentioned, as a parent of students in Orange County, I can assure you that Orange County Public Schools does a great job of advertising options within our district for students. They make available other avenues for students. This is really just a way to minimize sharing of information, again, that is not ours to share. School choice and charter schools have been around for a long time now. It's not something new, and I know that parents, all parents really need help in finding that perfect fit, but there are resources in the community, there are resources online that they can access. So this isn't the only way that certain schools are able to communicate in a blanket fashion with students.
A couple of questions that I have, either for Dr. Jenkins or for Mr. Rodriguez, whoever can answer this. For our magnet schools or our schools, our traditional public schools that might be interested in recruiting and marketing for students elsewhere from within the district, do they have access to the same information?
Our OCPS schools do have access to some of the same information and have utilized it in the past, especially if those students are enrolled at a charter school and making the transition from 8th to 9th grade. There is a way for our high schools to know who those students are, who might potentially be the incoming freshman class, and target them for a mailer.
Okay. And the information that's available within this directory, as Member Castor Dentel was pointing out, there's a lot of information that could be available. What specific information would be available if we approve this requested item today?
The only thing that you would be sharing with this charter school would be the name and address of the student.
Not student grades, no other personal information.
No other information. There will be a legal contractual agreement that school choice, the charter school, will draw up with our legal department and bring for your signatures.
Okay. All right, that answers my questions. If no further questions, then we have a motion on the table that we're going to vote on, and we have a second item, regardless, I think, of the outcome of that motion, to consider next. Motion is to deny this request. All in favor of that motion, please say aye. Aye. Show of hands, if I could. So we have Member Gallo, you can't see down there, I'm sorry. Member Gallo, Member Lopez, Member Cobert, myself, Member Gordon, Member Castor Dentel, Member Byrd. The motion to deny passes. And Member Cobert, do you want to put a second motion on the table? Actually, I don't know if we need a motion. Help me out on this, to come back and revisit that policy. Can that just be a direction to Dr. Jenkins? I think we're all in agreement with that is worthwhile.
Thank you.
So I think I will tell you that sitting here and listening to this discussion is very enlightening. So it's so helpful to this board that we have such diverse representation, from the standpoint of teachers to parents who have been very active at the school level, to members that have been here for so many years that can also shed so much great history. And I don't mean to say you're old, because I'm older than you are, but it's very valuable. Good discussion. All right, back to you, Dr. Jenkins.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Now, if somebody can just teach me how to work this clock, we'll be good. I know.
Madam Chair, members of the board, actually, that item for student JB, there is no parent present to speak, and so there is no opposition to the discipline already administered. So if you would just take up a motion, since we had already removed it, that would be helpful.
Thank you, Dr. Jenkins. So the motion is on, I'm sorry, is that 603? 601. Is there a motion to, is there a motion to approve 1701?
So moved.
Motion by member Gould. Is there a second? Second by member Cobert. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Dr. Jenkins, anything further on the agenda?
For my report, I would just remind you that on Thursday, for the very first time, we will have our OCPS Stellar Awards. I want to reassure everyone who's concerned about the timing of it to combine all of our Employee of the Year recognitions on Thursday night. In case anyone's concerned, Broward County, which is larger than we are, has been doing it this way for some time, and we actually did have staff go down and visit and observe when they put on their awards ceremony. So I want to, in advance, thank Mr. Howitt and all of his team for their hard work in this combining, for the first time, all of our Employees of the Year. You've got your run of show information. If you would be there, board members, I want to remind you, and this came up after we had another event, that if you watch the colors on all of our employees' name tags, you will know which ones are from your district. And so as they're moving around during the cocktail hour, during the reception time, it is not a cocktail hour. During the reception time, if you notice from their name tags, you'll be able to spot those individuals who are from your particular area. Teachers of the Year, Principal of the Year, Assistant Principal of the Year, and Support Person of the Year, all in one setting. And we are so thankful. Also, Carl Black Automobiles will be providing something both for Teacher of the Year and Support Person of the Year, something that they can drive under lease. It's not a car being given away, but a free lease to those individuals. We're very excited to have such a gala and a one-time event this year for the very first time, so we look forward to board members being there. I believe we've sold out the available tables. It will be quite a show and quite a crowd, so follow your directions regarding parking.
Very good, very good. Mr. Rodriguez, any report for the board?
Board members, we just had our ethics presentation, so thank you all for those who are able to attend, and no other reports at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. Excellent job by you and your staff. Best 4 hours and 15 minutes that I've ever spent at an ethics workshop. I happen to like ethics, but I usually sit in front of the computer, and you were infinitely more prepared, did a better job, and kept us awake. And I didn't have a single drop of coffee. So that is definitely evidence of a job well done. Thank you for that. And with that, we have no reports by any of our committees to share with the board at this point. Are there any other new business items to come before the board that need to be agended for a future discussion? And Vice Chair, Ms. Gordon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you. Thank you. Well, tonight you put on the board agenda, which will be coming forward in February. The staff, Ms. Dr. Jenkins and her staff, wonderful staff, has prepared a proclamation for February, has been nationally designated as a time to recognize and celebrate the contributions of African Americans to our nation's culture and history. And then there will be a lot of different opportunities and things going on within the school, and we're asking all of you to join us for a nice evening from 5 o'clock to 5:50 for a very wonderful feast in the out in the corridors out there. And then we ask you to come in at 6 and be entertained by several of the students from different schools that would like to entertain you and appreciate you and others within the community that have worked extremely hard. So I appreciate and we thank on behalf of Black History Month, the proclamation coming from the staff, recognizing that. So more will be forthcoming in February.
Wonderful, wonderful. We look forward to it, and an invitation for all the different events coming up. Any policy issues to come before the board? All right. Dr. Jenkins, before I close the meeting, any other business to come before the board?
Madam Chair, we had a swap out of our representative on the Community Action Board. Ms. Gould,
Oh my goodness,
Ms.
thank
Gould
you.
was no longer able to meet those meeting dates, and so we did have another volunteer that I secured.
Thank you so much. And so, Member Byrd, you've agreed to serve? Wonderful. Thank you. I think you'll find it very, very worthwhile. And we also need to appoint someone to serve on a county board regarding youth services, and we'll be bringing that recommendation back at the next meeting. Very good. Thank you. All right. Without any further business before the board, we now stand adjourned. Thank you. I know, look at this. Jeez.